to SciShow Tangents, the lightly competitive science knowledge showcase. I'm your host, Hank Green, and joining me this week, as always, is Forbes 30 Under 30 education luminary and science expert, Sari Riley.
Hello.
And more importantly, according to our show flow, our resident every clone, the incomparable Sam Schultz.
Hello.
I am curious, we were having a conversation right before we started recording, what the most embarrassing thing that there is about you that has come up with work colleagues or school colleagues or like people who didn't know you and then they found out a thing about you from the internet.
Mine's really easy. As somebody who hosts a Muppet podcast, I'm constantly humiliated by my mom and by my co-host and by my wife. Not as much. She doesn't really care about the Muppet podcast. But when somebody will say, "Oh, did you know Sam hosts a Muppet podcast?" Apropos of nothing. It's the only thing they know about me, probably. And then I have to go.
It's the only thing your mom knows about you?
It's probably. Yeah, and then I have to go. Yeah, I do. It's true. It's
Did you know Sam has a Muppet podcast? You do. I don't know. I don't know if the people of Tangents know about your Muppet podcast.
Commitment. I'll let the people listen know. I don't have to look them in the eyes. They have to look me in the eyes as I say it. Commitment is a Muppet podcast that I host. It's me and Matt Gatos, who you might know. We watch it. We're watching every Muppet thing that exists is available to watch, and even some stuff that's like illegally on the internet, stuff like that we can get our hands on sequentially. And
they still haven't found the episode of the Muppet Babies that I remember, but I don't know for sure exists.
I don't think it exists. We're deep in the Muppet Babies. There's like 10 seasons of Muppet Babies, and we're like on the 3rd season, so we got a way to go.
Well, there's a lot left then.
There's a lot left. But what the embarrassing thing is, you can tell when somebody hears that I host a Muppet podcast. You look in their eyes, and then if you can see the light extinguish, but you still have to say what it is, and you still have to be like, because you don't want to put that, you don't want to be like that other person, like, why'd you say that, stupid? So you have to still be like,
here's the whole synopsis of my Muppet podcast. I'll give you the elevator pitch as if you're a potential investor.
That's great. Yeah.
When I first showed up for my graduate program, I sat down next to a guy, and he looked at me and he said, we introduced ourselves to each other, and he was like, "Oh, you're Hank Green. I looked you up." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "I Googled everybody. I Googled every name of the people in the program." And he was like, I was like very excited because I used to work at JPL on Mars missions and on the Hubble. And I saw that you have done Mars journalism in the past. And I was like, actually, now I'm telling the story. I'm like, actually, this isn't embarrassing because it was great. He had done the embarrassing thing of admitting to having Googled
everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But what he discovered is that I was into Mars.
But he was into Mars too. So I feel like that is a friendship moment, not the light extinguishing from their eyes when they realize you host a Muppet podcast.
You're still friends?
Yeah. We are still friends.
You
probably met him at a party at my house at some point.
All right.
Not in like a sexy way, though.
Hank's parties. Wink, wink, wink. I, in general, try not to reveal information about myself to my coworkers until I know I can trust them as friends. I used to be very easily to trust. Then now I'm slightly less easily to trust. Is that how you grammatically say that? I don't know.
We get it.
And so usually when I talk about my work outside of work, I describe it very vaguely of like, oh, I do science communication, or, oh, I have a podcast with my friends.
They don't just know who Sari Riley is.
That's right, isn't it?
Sometimes people do walk up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I recognize your voice after your info session. But my coworkers don't really know who I am. And so when I was like, oh, I host a podcast with my friends, they assumed that just guys talking on a podcast, You're just one of those. I'm just one of those guys. Yeah. So after the Forbes thing came out, I heard, not directly, so I still don't know who in the office said it to someone else, like, I didn't realize Sari had a real podcast. I thought she was just one of those podcasters,
Yeah. You're not a hobby
There's something
podcaster.
about being like people finding out about your success that is even more uncomfortable than them finding about just about your normal human weirdness.
Well, I'm not very successful, so I don't have to worry about it.
It doesn't get that weird for saying. Every week here on SciShow Tangents, we get together to try to one-up and amaze and delight each other with science facts while also trying to stay on topic. Our panelists are playing for glory and for Hank Bucks, and one of them at the end of the episode is going to be the winner of this. But first, we're going to introduce this week's topic with the traditional science poem. This week is from me. Herod I, or Herod the Great, the leader of the Herodian Judean state, died just around the birth of Jesus. And Herod I, or Herod the Great, was probably a pretty big fan of dates, a fruit that to this day does please us. And Herod I, or Herod the Great, definitely had more than just dates on his plate. He had many long days to get through. But Herod I, or Herod the Great, suffered the same universal fate in that he died, as mere men tend to do. But 2,000 years after his death, after that great king took his last breath, after he finished all his great deeds, we found in his palace a number of seeds. While empires fell down and we went to the moon, that seed just lay buried in King Herod's room. And one of those seeds, just so we could see, we planted, and it turned into a tree. That's the story of the oldest germinating seed out there. And hopefully y'all didn't have that as a science fact. And the topic for the day is seeds.
That is always a risk, isn't it?
I think you're getting better at writing full children's books every episode of Tangents, Hank. That was a beginning, middle, end, a twist.
Yeah, the topic is seeds, but I didn't want to write about seeds. I wanted to write about one specific seed. And I found out that there is a date palm in Israel growing that was grown from a 2,000-year-old seed that was found in King Herod's castle.
It's still going, or what? When did they do it?
It's still going. It's still going, but you can't eat a fruit off of it. It's not old enough, but also it's a male tree, so it is not going to create fruits.
Oh, that's too bad.
But before we dive in, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back to define seeds. Hey, Sari, what are seeds?
You know, we kind of have an idea for this one. This is maybe one of the ones
I was thinking
more
maybe it'd be tricky because of like spores, but I guess those don't count.
I was going to bet this would be like everything's a seed. What are you talking about kind of moment?
This is if you go in botanically, then we have a pretty specific definition. Gotcha. But when you start naming things in the world, then
that have seed in them, that gets messy.
Then it gets messy. So we can do both of them. Botanically speaking, there are a group of plants, most plants that exist on our Earth, that are spermatophytes or seed plants, and that includes both angiosperms, which are the plants that flower, and gymnosperms, which are the conifers and cycads, the naked seed plants. And so the difference between those two is how those seeds are contained. Flowering plants have seeds enclosed in ovaries, and the ovaries, once they develop, are fruit.
I don't love that we call that an ovary, because to me, ovaries are made of animal meat. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea of like biting into a nice crisp ovary.
But did we call those ovaries first, and then we called the other thing ovaries?
No, I think that it was the human ovaries first.
Okay.
But they are, I mean, the O in ovary is egg.
Yeah. And so you start drawing parallels because it is like sexual reproduction. So a lot of the parts have the same names, but it is kind of plant flesh. But either way, so seeds, flowering plants have seeds enclosed in ovaries. Gymnosperms, so like conifers and whatnot, have seeds that just grow on modified leaves, which are the cones. So the seeds are just out in the world, nothing surrounding them, exposed to the elements. And the seed itself is the fertilized baby, ready to go out into the world. There's usually like the embryo itself, which is the pre-plant. It has a root, a stem, and whatever the beginning materials are. There is some nutrients, the endosperm, which is usually some starches and oils and whatnot. That is the food for the embryo.
Gotcha.
And then there's a seed coat, which is some sort of protective covering or accessory bits on it that can help seeds stay over time, some of them, if they're a date seed. And under the proper conditions up to 2,000 years or many more thousands of years in permafrost or other things like that.
Since this is fairly straightforward, can I throw a wrench in and ask if seeds are alive? This is a big one for me, where I'm like, wait a second. They're not alive yet, but they're gonna be. But they must be, because they can be, but they aren't, because they're not doing anything, and they can sit around for 2,000 years doing nothing.
They're just sleepy. I think they're alive.
Maybe
just
they're
taking
alive,
a nap.
but just sleepy. Okay.
Yeah. We eat a lot of seeds. And when you eat a seed, then you're eating something that's alive, I guess.
Yeah.
But when you're eating lettuce, you're eating basically living or slowly dying things also.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. I think seeds are slowly dying at the very least. But I guess so is everything that's alive.
Yeah, that's everything.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
The weird thing to think about, when I was digging into like what is a seed versus not, is some things that we think of as seeds are actually the fruit surrounding the seed.
Right.
So there's fleshy fruits like avocados or apples, or the vegetables that are fruits like tomatoes or whatnot, where there's like the fleshy bit and then the seeds inside. But some fruits, botanically speaking, are really dry and on the outside. So like a nut, in many cases, is actually a fruit, but then we eat the seed and discard the fruit part.
Because the shell is the fruit.
The shell is the fruit.
So a walnut shell is a fruit.
A walnut shell is a fruit, and then the nut inside is a nut.
They can really do it any old way, can't they?
Yeah.
And it's weird that like all of these plants are like that there's just these two categories of plants, basically.
Yeah, this is disappointingly straightforward. I really thought we were going to have a big fight.
But it is very strange. Like it's very weird because we have this idea of what a fruit is, and then it turns out that it's just like whatever. Like you're totally wrong.
And the seeds can be all kinds of things. Like there are lots of things that you'd look at, and without dissecting them, you'd be like, "Is that a seed? Is that a fruit? Is that a nut?" Like the biggest seed is the coco de mer, I think, which is a seed of a palm tree, and it can get really, really. It looks like a giant coconut, basically, but that's a seed.
It looks like a coconut, but also the hoof of a bison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like something.
Also, maybe
looks like some other stuff too.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Hey, is an egg a seed? A chicken egg? Is that a seed?
Is semen a seed? Because they call it that.
They do call it that.
Semen and seed come from the same
sperm,
base. That's
semen.
the only linguistic interesting thing, because we've been calling seeds since Proto-Indo-European. The original prefix "c" means sowing. So we had an agrarian society. We knew how to sow seeds, and we still use it that way. But that same prefix, the "c," formed semen as well, starting in like the 1300s. And that's when we started getting poetic about it and being like, that too is a seed. What if humans were like plants and could fertilize and create?
Then probably we'd look a little bit like these coco de mer.
Yeah, that's right.
This website refers to it as the sexy nut, which what are you thinking?
Now let's hear them out.
I mean, God bless a blogger. I just thank you for whatever you were up to in 2014 that resulted in that headline.
I would like to create a blog called A Sexy Nut in Paradise, and it's just me like bringing acorns around the world or different things, like just a walnut.
Sari in the tropics.
Yeah. That sounds like what a divorced mom would call herself when she was out on vacation, with her girls. I'm just a sexy nut in paradise.
Yeah. With a sunbrim hat, like definitely tan lines, big old
she's
margarita
had a couple
hand.
mistakes tonight, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Now it is time to move into the quiz portion of our show. Today, we're going to be playing This or That with a few seed-related superlatives. I'm going to give you a number related to something biggest, oldest, bestest, and so on. And you're going to guess which option that number refers to. Number one, the number is 25. Is that the weight in kilograms of the largest seed in the world, or the time in years for the seeds of the largest tree in the world to become mature enough to germinate? And yes, we are talking about this sexy nut.
Did you say years?
Yeah, it's either years or it's its weight in kilograms.
Oh.
Can you tell me how many pounds that is?
Yeah. Thank you, Siri.
Sure. It's like 50 pounds. It's like 55 pounds.
That thing isn't 50 pounds, I'm going to say. This is the cocoa. This is the sexy nut in paradise, you say?
The sexy nut in paradise. The biggest of them.
I think it's got to be 25 years then, because I don't think that thing could weigh 50 pounds.
How heavy is a bowling ball?
16 is the heaviest it's allowed to be.
I mean, I suppose it would be dense, but I mean, I'm seeing some people pick it up on... I'm seeing people pick up the sexy nut.
25 is a lot. So I could pick up a 25-pound nut, but I wouldn't like not make a noise.
But you said
That's a
50 pound
nut.
Oh, you're right. I did. I said 50 pounds.
Could you pick up a 50-pound nut?
I could pick up a 50-pound nut, but I'd have to like use good form.
You'd have to bend your knees. Keep your back straight. Oof. You might have to team lift the 50-pound nut.
Yeah. The Coco de Mer is a team lift.
It has that little logo from Target boxes on it. 2 guys picking up the sexiest nut in paradise.
Just 2 guys and a sexy nut.
I'm gonna say years.
I'm gonna say years too. I can't believe that it's a 50-pound. Well, this is how we get. I can't believe it's a 50-pound nut.
Well, the seeds of the Coco de Mer palm tree can weigh up to 25 kilograms.
Oh, no.
These giant seeds grow giant trees, and the palm easily hits 30 meters in height. And also, people, you gotta be careful if you look at them too long. Fly seed, not the tree.
Oh, okay. Well, you got to be careful if you look at the tree too long, because the seed might fall out and destroy your
absolutely
body.
Obliterate you.
Yeah, you wouldn't stand a chance against a 50-pound nut.
I thought you had to be careful if you look at the nut too long. Can't control what happens if you look at the sexy
I'm about
nut.
to act up. I'm looking at the nut.
Stop looking at this nut. My friend's lifting it with
nut.
me. The cones of the giant sequoia take over 2 years to form and may not release their seeds for another 20 years.
Oh, wow.
What are they waiting for?
That it forms. So that's pretty close to 25 years.
They're just operating on a different time scale.
Yeah. All right. Question number 2. 2,000. Is that the number of species preserved in the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, or the age in years of the oldest seed ever to germinate? This is what happens when you don't write the whole show.
It's just a fun little bonus for us.
Yeah. The funny thing is, Hank, I just learned about this date tree, but I can't remember where I learned it from. So I really think it's the oldest seed.
No, I think this is great.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to also go with...
You think it's the oldest seed?
Yep. I think it might be.
Well, the oldest seed ever to germinate is from the Middle East, dated to the 1st century CE. Researchers have also grown a plant from a 30,000-year-old frozen tissue, but it was from an immature fruit, not a seed, so that doesn't count. Meanwhile, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault currently preserves 5,000 species and 1.2 million individual samples. Many of them are important cereal crops like wheat and rice, because as much as we want to protect the earth, we also... if we have to rebuild from scratch, it would be nice to have that.
To have some wheat. We got to have a little bit of wheat.
Yeah. Next number, 385 million. Is that the number of individual seed-bearing trees in the Amazon rainforest, or the age in years of the oldest seed-producing plant in the fossil record?
I can't even comprehend that amount of trees, but I feel like this would be one where you said, actually, it's 2 billion trees. So I'm going to go with the oldest seed-producing fossilized plant.
All right.
Yeah. The problem is, one of my fatal flaws of many is that I can never remember time scales of anything.
Yeah.
And I learned a bunch about the Carboniferous period at some point. I visited a fossil beach where you could find fossils.
The Carboniferous period.
I traveled back in time to the Carboniferous period.
It was unsafe.
But it was a very cool beach where you could just walk around and find fossils.
But you can't remember anything about them.
But I can't remember anything about the informational signs that I walked around delightedly going, ooh, how interesting. Because this would be probably, that's plants, that's tree. Anyway, I'm going to agree with Sam. I'm just going to ride his coattails like I will ride the coattails of commitment to success.
No, that's a good call, you guys. There's 390 billion individual trees in the Amazon. Not 2 billion, Sam. 390 billion.
Billion trees?
Yes.
Holy cow.
There's a lot of trees in the Amazon.
What the hell?
I don't know. We should cut some of them down. It's too many.
No.
I say let's get it down.
Billionaire.
Let's get them down. So yes, researchers have identified what is technically a precursor to the seed-bearing plants. They named it Runcaria and dated it to 385 million years ago. It is a small, this is quotations, a small radially symmetrical integumented megasporangium surrounded by a cupule. So now you know that.
Whoever wrote that's a nerd.
But I like biology because you can tell. I bet I can guess what a cupule is.
Yeah,
I bet it's a cup shape.
I'm
structure.
often surrounded by cupules. It's very uncomfortable. I like them to back off a little bit. Let's find out what a cupule is. It's a cup-shaped organ.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Thank you, biology. This is how people are like, oh, biology's so hard. And it's just, you got cupules. That's it.
There are also cupules that are made by man in archaeology. Man-made hollows on the surface of a large rock or rock slab.
We need something fancier than manhole to call them.
All right. What does that mean for our scores here? It means that it's a tied ball game as we head in to our short break, and then it will be time for the fact off.
Sari and Hank, tell me, what is your favorite article of clothing?
Sweatpants. Like, I gotta have good comfy pants. If I don't have good comfy pants, everything has gone wrong.
I really think that a good pair of underpants is important.
Well, this question was supposed to set you up to answer some things that Hank sells, such as socks, t-shirts.
Oh.
However, maybe you have a piece of clothing that's your favorite piece of clothing that Hank sold you. I'm sure that there's thousands of people out there who that's the case for, because Hank has started companies that sell stuff, and a lot of that stuff he sells is clothes, but it's a lot of other stuff too. And they sell that stuff with the help of Shopify, a global commerce platform that helps you sell online or in person, regardless of technical ability or experience.
I was in a cute little, like one of those shops in a downtown that sells like the art from the local artists and also other cool kitschy little things and art supplies and stuff. And then I noticed that they were using Shopify, and I was like, oh, I thought that was like an internet thing, but it's not. It's an everything thing. I don't do any retail like in person yet, though but like if we wanted to, Shopify would like let us do it very easily. We'd be able to like convert into that world like without having a huge cost of having to figure out how to build all that part of it out. I don't know how we would do what we do without Shopify. And I remember the days when we weren't using Shopify, not fondly.
So you can upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Hank uses in all his businesses with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tangents, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/tangents to upgrade your selling today. One more time with feeling. Shopify.com/TANGENTS.
SciShow Tangents is brought to you by Factor. Fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to eat in just 2 minutes.
Oh, you better stay out of my way today. I'm in a nasty, nasty mood.
Hey, Sam. What's got you so crabby?
I'll tell you what's got me crabby, Sari. Thanks for asking. Not. I'm freaking starving. But I only have exactly 2 minutes to prepare my food. What the heck am I supposed to do? Ugh.
Oh boy, are you in luck, because you found yourself right in the middle of an ad for Factor. Factor delivers fresh, no prep, no mess meals straight to your door. And as I said not 40 seconds ago, they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, well I bet they only have like one meal and it's plain noodles or something like that.
No, actually Factor has 35 different meals from breakfast to dessert and more than 60 add-ons. Plain noodles might be one of them, I'm not sure, but there are definitely lots of other things too that have seasoning.
Other things like restaurant quality meals featuring premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon? Surely not. And yet, that's what my refined palate demands.
Well, you're not going to believe this, But actually, they have all of those things and more.
Whoa.
You can choose meals that support your fancy lad lifestyle, or pick ones that help you manage your calories, or maximize your protein intake, or avoid meat, or simply eat in a well-balanced way.
That's all well and good, but I probably at this point only have like 10 seconds left to eat at best. If only someone had told me about Factor sooner. Goodbye.
Well, he died, everybody.
Wasted away. Don't be cranky and dead like Sam. Get fresh, tasty meals delivered to your door. Head to factormeals.com/tangents50 and use code tangents50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code tangents50 at factormeals.com/tangents50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Welcome back, everybody. Our panelists have brought science facts to present to me in an attempt to blow my mind. And after they have presented their facts, I will judge which one is the more mind-blowing. And that person will be the winner of the episode, because we're coming in with a tie. But to decide who goes first, I have a trivia question for you. A critical way that plants spread seeds is by getting eaten and then pooped out by animals and also bugs, which are animals. Earlier this year, a new record was set for the smallest critter to disperse ingested seeds. Guess that smallest critter. Is it the camel cricket, the common rough woodlouse, or the pygmy jerboa rodent?
The smallest of these guys. Okay, so they're gonna be like, "Oh, this rodent's smaller than these bugs." I'm metagaming today. That's what they're gonna say. Can you believe these rodents are smaller than these bugs? And camel crickets are freaking huge. I think those are one of those, like, you see a scary picture of a big bug on the internet, it's always a camel cricket. I think that's right.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a weta.
Or it's a Jerusalem cricket or something like that, which might be the same thing.
I mean, Sam is correct in that camel crickets are like kind of upsettingly big, but they're like, it's more that their legs take up a lot of space than their bodies do.
That's bad. A big bodied bug is cute. A big legged bug is not. That's what I say.
We can all disagree on many different things.
Actually, I agree with Sam 100%. A giant isopod, I would cuddle it.
Yeah.
Big, like whatever those spider crab.
I was able to touch a giant isopod once, and I have to say, I did not find it like a cuddly
cute
experience.
Or cuddly at all. Oh. Well, I guess I'm going to go with the pygmy jerboa rodent, which means that I think Sarah has to go with a different one, probably.
Yeah, I think just for ease of someone winning trivia, I will let go of your coattails and choose the woodlouse, I guess. A little bug pooping out a tiny seed.
Oh my gosh, it's the common rough woodlouse. Wow. In May of this year, botanists at Kobe University published a paper in which they studied the seeds of the silver dragon plant in East Asia, which have seeds the size of dust particles. Wow. The researchers confirmed that the minuscule seeds are robust enough to survive the small but mighty common woodlouse's digestive system, making it the smallest known seed-dispersing creature at an average of 18 millimeters long. He eats little dust seeds that he cannot digest. Which means that Sarah gets to go first.
In April 2024, a research paper debuted a new invention to help with complex environmental challenges like reforestation and precision agriculture. And they called their invention HybriBots. That name alone sounds cool and cyborgy. Like, what combination of living thing and machine could it be? Part tree, part titanium, part goat, part carbon nanotubes. But no, it is much more small and humble than that. It is part biodegradable seed capsule and part wild oat. Which I am a huge nerd, and even I can admit that sounds very anticlimactic. But HybriBots are actually so cool and weird. They are built to mimic the dry fruit of Avena sterilis, which is one of the species of wild oats out there. They're fairly common plants, native to Africa, Europe, and Asia, but they're found all across the world except Antarctica. And they are very, very good at spreading their seeds, which is probably what led to the whole sow your wild oats idiom. And they have a reputation as a menace or competition to other edible grains. And the way that they spread their seeds, they have these pointy, hairy compartments that contain 2 seeds each that are attached to 2 appendages called awns that look kind of like long bug antennae sticking out from them. This is where it gets cool. The awns are hygroscopic, which means that they attract water molecules from the air, and as they get wet or dry out with changes in humidity, they end up twisting around and moving almost like twitching bug legs, sometimes interlocking and building up potential energy. And in doing so, this pod tumbles and jumps across the ground. It looks alive, basically. Then the pointy compartment will eventually get wedged into a crack where the awns will keep spinning around but no longer propel it. And that is a better place than laying on the surface of the ground for the seeds to germinate. So what these researchers did is create a synthetic version of the seed body out of a flour-based substance, like the grain powder, not the blooming thing. By casting it in a mold, they could put whatever seeds they wanted inside, trees or crops or whatnot. And then they took the awns from a bunch of wild oat fruits and then stuck them on too. So synthetic pod, stolen awns on it. And these HybriBots crawled or walked or tumbled, however you want to describe it, the same way and successfully degraded to let tomato seeds grow. And I don't know, like sometimes you think, logically that plants are alive, but then when you see these little seeds squiggling and wiggling around, you're like, that's a bug. That's not a plant, that's a bug. And the thought is that by scattering a bunch of these HybriBots, we could hypothetically broadcast seeds out there more effectively because they'll naturally sort of like squirm around and plant themselves in uneven ground instead of laying out on the surface to be eaten.
Gotcha.
The researchers call them bio-inspired miniaturized machines. So it's kind of like robotics from nature, but we just stole nature behaving like a little robot arm.
So it's all activated by water?
Just water in the environment as it gets like slightly wetter or slightly drier.
And then it like moves around and is able to dig itself in. Because like one of the things that a seed has to do is theoretically dig itself in somehow. Unless it like gets to be like just inside of a fecal pellet, which is awesome. It's kind of remarkable. Just like think I'm just like laying on top and then I have to like get my roots to go down in there.
Yeah. They worm their way into the dirt so they can start decomposing.
Is this like an agriculture thing? Because it's going to be good for agriculture?
That's theoretically. I think so you can sprinkle a bunch of seeds and then they can burrow their way into the ground if you want to, grow more trees in the Amazon rainforest that you think is so flush.
It's got enough.
Yeah. But hypothetically, if you wanted to plant a couple more billion in there, then you could put tree seeds in these bots. And then they would wiggle and squirm and dig their way into holes a little bit.
Why can they call them bots? Why are they allowed to do that? Robot is too, it seems like they're getting away with something calling them robot.
I think it's because they're using the seed thingy as a mechanism. It is, I guess, in the way that it is intended to, but by detaching it from something and adding it to something else, and it moves in ways that we designed robots to move. But I'm not a roboticist.
Well, I bet one's listening. Is this okay? If you're listening, roboticist, is this okay? Are you mad right now?
When did this happen, and how hard would it be to make like a billion of them? I feel like that's a big question for something that might be used in agriculture, is that you have to make a billion of them.
Yeah. The way that they made it was by making a little mold that they poured the mixture into.
I feel like you can make a billion of them.
Yeah. You can make a lot of molds. This paper was from April 2024, so a couple months ago. It's still pretty fresh. And it's not one of those where, I don't know, you see one paper about it or one news release and then nothing happens. So we got to check back in a decade to see if we've made it anywhere.
Everybody's using HybriBots.
Yeah, with these bots.
Have you ever seen that thing where they spray seeds out of a truck onto like a embankment?
Are they in a goo?
They're in a goo.
I think I have seen this.
They're in like a green goo, so they can tell where they've painted the seeds on.
Yes, I have seen that.
So I feel like maybe we could throw some of these into that goo, and then we'd increase the chances of the seeds taken. I bet that they can only use certain kinds of seed in the spray because they are the ones that are most likely to take. But can you get the sexy nut in the spray with a giant bot?
Big spray.
That just corkscrews it down.
A big hurdy spray. Ouch.
Yeah, it's also a machine of war at that point. It needs to be.
Spraying you down with a sexy nut. That's
all right, what you got? What you got, Sam? I was just going to move on quick from that.
Deforestation, a hot topic in this episode. And guess what? Despite what Hank says, it's a big problem for the old planet Earth. Forests support soil health, biodiversity. They can help mitigate climate change, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, forests are full of trees, and trees can both really get in the way when you need to build something or have animals graze somewhere, but also trees are made out of wood, and wood is great to build with, notoriously great to build with.
We do like it. It seems important. It seems like a good thing it'd be good to have.
So I don't have to tell you, we've cut down a lot of forests, and there are places where we kind of maybe need those forests to come back. But trees are slow as hell, and waiting for forests to regenerate on their own isn't necessarily the most efficient way to do things. Luckily, you can plant trees and with seeds, and there are a few ways to do that. One of the most common ways is planting saplings grown in nurseries, but there's a couple problems with that method. The saplings can catch diseases in nurseries that they wouldn't normally contract in nature, and then those diseases can get spread into the ecosystem that you put them in. Roots might not develop correctly when they're replanted, stuff like that. Direct seeding, or planting seeds directly out in nature, is an alternative planting method that eliminates a lot of these problems, but it introduces one big one. Seeds are delicious, and animals love to eat them. So direct seeding programs tend to lose a huge amount of their planted seeds to predation. In order to combat this, a team at the University of Granada in Spain had a devilishly simple idea. If you were to soak the seeds, in this case the acorns of the holm oak, in the urine of a predatory animal, it might just repel prey animals who love to eat seeds but hate to be around predators. So the challenge was to find a source of urine that would be cheap and easy enough to procure, that were this experiment successful, it could be done at scale. And so you might think it's time to go find a fox or a coyote, get some pee out of them. But according to head researcher Jorge Castro, coyote pee is really hard to get. So the team decided to go with pee that is very easy to find, human pee.
Oh.
So the team collected their own urine. They went out into the field. They went into the field to start burying these acorns. And on some, they poured some just regular old water. And on others, they poured 100 milliliters of piss. Then all that was left to do was sit, watch, and wait for the results. So the name of the paper that they published about this experiment is called "Human Urine Does Not Protect Acorns Against Predation by the Wood Mouse." So with that in mind,
Wood Mouse is like, thanks for the marinade.
A little salty. So it's probably not hard to guess what the results were. Unfortunately, by the end of 7 days, 97% of the planted acorns, be they pea-soaked or not pea-soaked, have been stolen by critters. And that result pretty much speaks for itself. So if we want to make a real go at direct seeding, we're going to have to get out there and start making some coyotes piss in cups for us.
What about dogs?
That's a great idea, Hank. What about dogs? And that's the next one. The next paper will be called "Dog Urine Does Not Protect Acorns Against Predation by the Wood Mouse." We had to put them in all the kinds of different pee there is out there.
Yeah. I know that there is there's a place where you can go and to buy pee.
Big jugs of stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure how they collect it, because
it's usually like deer pee, isn't it?
No, I think you can buy predator pee to scare deer away. I was talking to a person who works at a zoo about this, and they have a problem of the human wildlife interactions of various kinds, and they want to get certain animals to not go to certain places, and so they acquire giant, but they're expensive. It's expensive to buy a jug of coyote pee.
Yeah, I'm seeing bobcat urine right here. So maybe they just don't know about this in Spain. We have to send them some good American urine.
Yeah, it's at predatorpeestore.com.
Yep, that's what I'm
reading too.
Wolf
How
pee.
do we collect the pee?
Coyote
It's even
pee.
on here.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, how do they do it?
They just go to game farms, zoos, and preserves.
Okay.
And the urine is collected via floor collection drains in pens and cages.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically, you just set a little container in your cat's litter box and get some water
cats
repellent.
might be good.
Cat
Cats
might
got
be
stinky
great.
pee that's going to smell like a predator.
We're really solving problems today.
There's a lot of cats out there. And look,
That's
I don't love the cat situation right now as it is. I'm not a huge fan of scooping the litter. So if there was a way for the pee to just go to some kind of centralized vessel in my home, and then I could sell it via predatorpee.com, make the world a better place, get some little mice to screw off and not eat seeds.
You could get a plumbed cat box that would
Yes,
the city
straight
could collect
down.
all the cat pee.
Awesomepiss.com. Join the Awesome Piss Club. It's not what it sounds like.
Guess which piss of the month you get today?
You're gonna get a different piss every month.
Wow, you can buy bat pee. No, never mind. You pick what animal you want to stay away, and then it tells you what kind of pee you need.
Yeah.
To get rid of bats, you need, guess what you need?
What eats a bat? What eats a bat? A bobcat?
A coyote.
Bobcat pee?
A raccoon.
Oh,
Maybe they just don't.
Yeah, I can
Maybe
see
they
that.
just don't like each other.
Wait, can we just play this game for the rest of the episode?
Yeah, this
What do
could
you?
be-
Okay, do another one,
This is a
Sam. Do
great
another.
game. No, we gotta play it next time. We gotta play a game next
Okay, we'll
time. But
play
that
it
game's called how do you
What do you-
keep like what pee scares away this animal?
That's
Yeah.
a good name for a game, Hank.
Yeah, it's called Piss Games.
Okay, I want to do one more. What would you use to keep a dog away?
A mountain lion.
Bear.
Bear. Got it in one, Hank. It's bear pee. That's the pee for you.
That's the name of the game. What's the
What's
pee
the
for
pee
you?
for you?
That's the pee for you.
Could it be called Gimme a Pee? No.
No.
Oh.
It can't be called that. Sorry.
So I have to choose between HybriBots, wild oat fruits that walk, plus human-made capsules, a cyborg way to plant seeds, or human urine not protecting acorns. Predation by a wood mouse.
One of these is a study that any one of us could do, and one of these is about human urine and acorns.
I mean, but it's sometimes it's great to have a study that anyone can do. I think I might pee on seeds all the time now to see what happens.
Might
But
as
I
well
think
try.
Sari's going to run away with this one.
Oh.
I just like that we're trying to solve problems in weird ways. So I guess that is also the researchers were doing that
because that's what I just said.
It's true. I looked at it doing its little corkscrew dance, and it made
That
me
was pretty
uncomfortable.
cool.
And I felt like I
okay.
should give it the points. And now it's time to Ask the Science Couch, where we've got a question for our couch of finely honed scientific minds.
At Mooney Riot on Twitter asked, I'm going to read it like they wrote it. What is an heirloom seed? Why are they so special?
I guess the idea is that there was a moment when we sort of like all kind of standardized on some specific seeds, and they selected for specific traits that were maybe like extra good for being in a grocery store, traveling long distances, holding up for a long time, rather than being like as delicious as possible, which is what you would do if it was just being grown in your garden. You didn't have to think about all those other things. But then we realized, we do still have some of those old seeds hanging out at grandma's house, and she can pass them down to me like it's an heirloom. And so there are like the wider, more diverse variety of seeds that we once had that then we stopped having because we all like kind of specialized on specific seeds there for a little while. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. What I
would
miss?
say, so you got the broad strokes of it. There are a couple things that distinguish heirloom seeds from not heirloom seeds that we've kind of slotted them into categories. And from what I can tell, it's kind of an arbitrary classification. We just kind of like collectively started calling some seeds heirloom seeds and some seeds not. The things that separate heirloom seeds from not heirloom seeds are heirloom seeds are old. And how old, may you ask? 1951-ish, it seems like. Who decided that?
That seems right. When grandma was doing her gardening.
But specifically, that date is from before the first hybrid vegetables were produced by like hand pollinating and intentionally hybridizing plants. So you take two plants of that have traits that you kind of like, and then you hybridize them intentionally. And so an heirloom seed is one that existed, a plant that existed before we started intentionally breeding seeds through hand pollination in that way. But of course, this is kind of wobbly because we've
been doing that for a long
breeding
time,
plants in lots of ways. Like we started doing agriculture and we started selecting for plants, and we influence the genetics of plants in that way. But that is the other criteria of heirloom seeds, which is that they are open pollinated, which is a way to describe that these plants either pollinate themselves or cross-pollinate by wind or insects, and you just kind of like let them go. And some of these plants, like beans or lettuce or peas and tomatoes, are self-pollinating. So if you plant, for example, an heirloom tomato seed, it will pollinate itself as a plant. And so you can be pretty sure or positive that the seeds that you extract from those tomatoes are still stably that kind of tomato. There are some heirloom seeds that are like pumpkins or squash that can hybridize between different varieties naturally through open pollination. And so even though that would technically be an heirloom seed, people kind of keep them away from their heirloom seed collections because they don't even want accidentally cross-pollinated hybrids as part of an heirloom seed collection. You want to know exactly what you're getting pretty much when you're planting an heirloom seed. And this has kind of gotten popular, I think, just as more people have taken up gardening. They're interested in heirloom seeds in contrast to hybrid plants that are crossed specifically for specific traits with carefully chosen characteristics. Whereas heirloom seeds often, people describe them as like they're more flavorful, but they're also harder to grow because they're not bred intentionally to be disease resistant or pest resistant or whatnot.
Gotcha.
So some people grow heirloom seeds as like a status symbol is what I'm getting at, of like, one, heirloom tomatoes are yummy. So you could grow heirloom seeds because you think they're tasty. Some people grow them because they're like, I think this is better than hybrid seeds. And there's a misunderstanding that hybrid seeds are genetically modified in some way, and like what those terms mean. There aren't any seeds at the grocery store or at a garden shop that you as a backyard gardener can get that are genetically modified in a lab. They just don't exist. Hybrid seeds are all still two plants pollinating each other. It's just a human coming together and saying, now kiss, now make babies to the plants, as opposed to the wind and the insects doing that. And then the third kind of category of heirloom seeds are like generations. Like you get it from your grandma. A lot of indigenous cultures or agrarian societies pass down seeds just as part of an agricultural tradition. And that's where a lot of heirloom seed varieties have been preserved through those lineages, and now through seed libraries and other institutions that have cropped up around it. But a lot of the like quote unquote original heirloom seeds, or the oldest ones that go hundreds or thousands of years back, are just communities of people that have been growing the same stuff for a while and passing that down, which is kind of nice.
That is not what I thought.
Okay.
I love heirloom tomatoes so much. I had one
They're pretty good.
yesterday. I had a giant one from the store that cost like $8 for one tomato.
I feel like heirloom tomatoes are maybe the heirloom seed that people have most contact with. And I didn't even realize it was a whole class of things. I just thought it was like, oh, you got tomatoes and you got heirloom tomatoes and that's it. But you can have heirloom squash or beans or corn or whatever.
And now, for our listeners on Patreon, we are answering a bonus Science Couch question. Sam, what do we got?
At Tanukas on Twitter and Luca Luke on Discord asked, can a seed sprout/grow inside a digestive system?
If you want to hear that answer to that question, as well as enjoy all new episodes totally ad-free, head over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/SciShowTangents. At our $8 a month tier, you can get new ad-free and extended shenanigans as we answer a bonus Science Couch question every episode. You'll also get to join our private Discord server and maybe also get some goodies in the future. And also our previous goodies that we have already made. Our patrons are the best, and we are very grateful for their support of the show. If you want to ask the Science Couch a question, you can follow us on Twitter at SciShowTangents, or check out our YouTube community tab, where we will send out the topics for upcoming episodes every week, or you can join the SciShow Tangents Patreon and ask us on our Discord. Thank you to at WalkerWizardsPJ on Twitter, at MNavier on Instagram, and everybody else who asked us your question for this episode. If you like this show and you want to help us out, it's super easy to do that. You can go to patreon.com/SciShowTangents to become a patron and get access to those things that we just talked about, like our extended ad-free episodes and our Discord. Shout out to patron Les Aker for their support. Second, you can leave us a review wherever you listen, which is very helpful, and it helps us know what you think about the show. And finally, if you want to show your love for SciShow Tangents, just tell people about us. Thank you for joining us. I've been Hank Green.
I've been Sari Riley.
And I've been Sam Schultz.
SciShow Tangents is created by all of us and produced by Jess Stempert. Our associate producer is Eve Schmidt. Our editor is Seth Glicksman. Our social media organizer is Julia Buzz Bazzaio. Our editorial assistants are Deboki Chakravarti and Alex Billow. Our sound design is by Joseph Tuna Medish. Our executive producers are Nicole Sweeney and me, Hank Green. And of course, we could not make any of this without our patrons on Patreon. Thank you. And remember, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be lighted.
But one more thing. The volcanic island Surtsey formed off the coast of Iceland from underwater eruptions that lasted from 1963 to 1967. Tourists have never been allowed there to keep the environment as pristine as possible, so researchers can study how all kinds of life colonize a new landmass. In 1969, a botanist was called to help identify a mysterious 5-inch tall plant on the lava. He nudged away some rocks to find a peculiar pile. Quote, this is a quote, a peculiar pile which was very soft. Can you guess what it was? It was human poop.
Oh, great.
After that discovery, he quickly realized that this was a tomato plant that had grown from a seed in somebody's lunch. And the scientists on the island got a firm reminder to take all their waste with them, even their poop, which I would say, especially your poop. That's the first one on the hierarchy.
That's like what waste means.
Yeah. We came up with it for
now we
poop.
have that answer to that question, at least. That's
true, Hank.
Can indeed germinate after passing through the digestive system of the
I was wrong. I'm a big enough man to admit when I was wrong.
God, I love a tomato.
Would you eat this one, the forbidden
Would
tomato?
you eat a poop tomato?
Yeah.
Would I eat a poop tomato? A tomato that grew out of poop?
Tomato. Yeah.
Yeah.
You wash it first, though.
Yeah. I wash any tomato first.
Yeah, you don't ever know where they're coming out of.
Yeah. They could all be poop tomatoes for all I know. I don't know how people make tomatoes.
I think we need to come up with a new class of seed. In addition to like heirloom seed, hybrid seed, it's like seeds that I ate and then pooped in my own garden.
Oh.
What's that seed?
Yeah.
Ooh.
This is the seed that Grandma pooped out.
Grandma was always doing stuff like that.
You gotta stop dumping in the garden.
Grandma just digs a hole and poops, and we see what grows. And that's dinner.
That's an heirloom seed, Sari. I like
That's
this.
an heirloom
Yeah.
seed.
That's an heirloom.